Monday, August 17th, 2026. Today's World News Headline Summary. 1. The Korea Times. 1-1. Unexplained dismissal of Trade Minister risks misunderstanding. President Lee Jae-myung's unexpected and abrupt dismissal of Trade Minister Yo Han-koo has sent shockwaves through South Korea's political and economic circles. Analysts suggest that such an unprecedented move, occurring without the usual preliminary signals, reflects potential internal discord over how to handle mounting U.S. tariff pressures. Yo was removed during a highly sensitive period of strained bilateral relations, as Washington aggressively pushes Seoul to fulfill its massive $350 billion investment commitment. While an anonymous government official claimed the firing is completely unrelated to ongoing trade negotiations, the glaring lack of transparency risks severely undermining public trust and diplomatic leverage. The ripple effects of this sudden leadership vacuum could ultimately compromise Seoul's negotiation position, making a clear and official explanation from the presidential office absolutely imperative to prevent further speculative instability.
Discord. Noun. 불화. 다툼. Internal discord within the party led to the disastrous election result. Strained. Adjective. 긴장된. 껄끄러운. The two nations currently maintain a severely strained relationship. Bilateral. Adjective. 양국의. 쌍방의. They signed a new bilateral agreement on climate change. Transparency. Noun. 투명성. The government promised greater transparency in its budget spending. Leverage. Noun. 영향력. 지렛대. Economic sanctions are often used as diplomatic leverage. Imperative. Adjective. 반드시 해야 하는. 긴요한. It is imperative that we act immediately to stop the bleeding. Speculative. Adjective. 추측에 근거한, 투기적인. The article was largely speculative and lacked hard evidence. Bilateral trade. 쌍무무역, 양자간 무역. 여러 국가가 한 번에 참여하는 다자간 무역, multilateral trade와 달리 두 국가가 원대원으로 마주 앉아 관세율이나 수출입 조건을 조율하는 방식입니다.
양국의 정치적 상황이나 외교적 힘의 균형에 따라 협상의 주도권이 크게 좌우되는 특징이 있습니다.
1-2. South Korea and U.S. commence Ulchi Freedom Shield exercise. SHIELD. South Korea and the United States officially kicked off their critical summertime combined military drill, the Ulchi Freedom Shield, UFS, exercise, in Seoul on Monday. These comprehensive, all-domain operations are strategically designed to counter rapidly evolving modern threats, deeply incorporating realistic scenarios involving drone strikes, GPS disruptions, and advanced cyber attacks. Military officials from both allied nations repeatedly emphasized that the nature of the exercise is strictly defensive and crucial for maintaining regional stability. Approximately 18,000 South Korean troops are participating in the drills, which also serve as a vital stepping stone for accelerating Seoul's efforts to regain wartime operational control, OPCON, from Washington. The Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission is strictly observing the proceedings to monitor full compliance with the long-standing armistice agreement. Vocabulary. Commence. Verb. 시작되다. 개시하다. The joint military operations will commence at dawn. Comprehensive. Adjective. 포괄적인, 종합적인. The report provides a comprehensive overview of cyber threats.
Incorporate. Verb. 포함하다, 통합하다. The new software incorporates several advanced security features. Evolving. Adjective. 진화하는, 발전하는. The military must constantly adapt to evolving tactical situations. Disruption. Noun. 혼란, 붕괴, 교란. The solar flare caused severe disruption to GPS signals. Strictly. Adverb. 엄격히, 철저히. The information is strictly confidential and cannot be shared. Stepping stone. Noun. 발판, 디딤돌.
This entry-level job is a stepping stone to a better career. Compliance. Noun. 법, 명령 등의 준수. The factory was closed for failing to work in compliance with safety laws. Armistice. Noun. 휴전, 정전. The two nations signed an armistice to finally stop the bloodshed. 축복 시사 용어 해설. 옵컨, operational control, 작전 통제권. 군대의 작전을 지휘하고 통제할 수 있는 권한을 말합니다. 한국의 경우 평시 작전 통제권은 한국군이 가지고 있으나 전쟁이 났을 때 군을 지휘하는 전시 작전 통제권은 한미연합사령관, 미군 사성장군에게 있습니다. 이를 한국군으로 되가져오기 위한 조건 기반 전환 작업이 양국 간 핵심 안보 과제입니다.
1-3. Silicon Valley billionaires target Liberty Bell. A fierce controversy has emerged in the U.S. as Silicon Valley billionaires reportedly set their sights on the historic Liberty Bell, sparking widespread public outrage. Critics passionately argue that these ultra-wealthy tech figures are attempting to leverage sacred national symbols to expand their private or corporate influence. This aggressive movement has triggered profound fears that commodifying history by prioritizing unchecked capital over public heritage could effectively do away with democracy. To many citizens, the Liberty Bell stands as an untainted, sacred monument of American freedom that must never be subjected to corporate ownership or branding. Social observers sternly warn that allowing tech giants to exploit such foundational historical artifacts sets a highly dangerous precedent for the nation's future identity. Vocabulary. Controversy. Noun. 논란, 논쟁. The new tax policy caused a massive controversy among citizens. Outrage. Noun. 공분, 격분. The corrupt politician's remarks sparked public outrage. Leverage. Verb. 영향력을 행사하다. 지렛대로 쓰다. We should leverage our unique strengths to win the contract. Sacred. Adjective. 신성한. The ancient temple is considered a sacred place by the locals. Commodify. Verb. 상품화하다. True art should never be commodified solely for financial profit. Unchecked. Adjective. 억제되지 않은, 통제받지 않는. Unchecked industrial growth can lead to severe environmental damage. Untainted. Adjective. 훼손되지 않은, 오점 없는. He left politics with his personal reputation completely untainted. Artifact. Noun. 인공물, 유모. The museum displays historical artifacts from the Roman Empire. Precedent. Noun. 선례, 판례. The Supreme Court's decision sets a new legal precedent. 시사용어 해설. Commodify, 상품화하다. 원래는 상업적 가치를 매기거나 시장에서 돈을 주고 사고 팔아서는 안 되는 것들, 역사적 유물, 문화재, 생명, 자유 등을 이익을 내기 위한 수단인 물건, 상품처럼 취급하는 행위를 비판적으로 일컬을 때 사용합니다. Torrential rain and landslides batter Gyeonggi, killing one. Torrential rain and a severe landslide brutally battered Gyeonggi, South Gyeongsang Province, leaving at least one resident dead and causing widespread destruction. Over the 3-day Liberation Day holiday, the vulnerable coastal city was inundated with an astonishing 700 millimeters of rainfall, overwhelming local drainage systems. Early Monday morning, an emergency disaster alert was urgently dispatched to all residents, demanding immediate evacuation to safe areas as the risk of further landslides peaked. A devastating landslide struck an apartment complex in Okpodong, completely burying parked vehicles and blocking crucial access roads with thick mud and debris. Emergency rescue crews are currently struggling to navigate submerged roads and reach isolated homes as multiple rivers continue to overflow dangerously across the region. Vocabulary. Torrential. Adjective. 양동이로 들이붓는 듯한, 맹렬한. Torrential rain caused massive flash flooding in the valley. Batter. Verb. 강타하다, 때리다. The Category 5 hurricane battered the small coastal town. Inundate. Verb. 침수시키다, 쇄도하다. The low-lying areas were inundated with floodwaters. Overwhelming. Adjective. 압도적인, 저항하기 힘든. The team won the championship with overwhelming support. Dispatch, verb. 파견하다, 발송하다. 2 rescue helicopters were dispatched to the accident scene. Evacuation, noun. 대피, 피난. Forced evacuation was ordered as the wildfire approached. Devastating, adjective. 대단히 파괴적인. The earthquake had a devastating impact on the local economy. Debris, noun. 잔해, 쓰레기. Rescuers carefully searched through the debris for survivors. Submerged, adjective. 물속에 잠긴, 침수된. The divers explored the submerged ruins of the ancient city. 시사용어 해설. Evacuation, 대피, 철수. 재난, 홍수, 화재, 지진이나 전쟁과 같은 위험한 상황이 발생했을 때 사람들을 안전한 장소로 조직적으로 이동시키는 것을 의미합니다. 경제기사에서는 위험 자산에서 자본을 대거 빼내는 현상을 은유적으로 표현할 때 쓰이기도 합니다.
2-2. Trump orders Pentagon to reduce Korea-U.S. military exercises. U.S. President Donald Trump has issued a startling directive instructing the Pentagon to substantially reduce the scale of joint military exercises between South Korea and the United States. In a recent social media post, Trump explicitly criticized the drills as being excessively costly for American taxpayers and argued they send a totally inappropriate and hostile signal to Pyongyang. Furthermore, he cited his self-proclaimed very good relationship with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un as the primary justification for abruptly scaling back these foundational security operations. This highly unexpected announcement arrived just hours before the annual Ulchi Freedom Shield exercise was scheduled to kick off in Seoul, throwing military planners into disarray. South Korean politicians and defense experts have since expressed profound concerns over the detrimental impact this unilateral decision might have on the long-standing bilateral alliance and regional deterrence. TSE vocabulary. Startling. Adjective. 깜짝 놀랄. 아주 놀라운. The report revealed a startling increase in youth unemployment. Directive. Noun. 지시. 명령. The CEO issued a new directive regarding remote work. Substantially. Adverb. 실질적으로, 상당히. The company's net profits increased substantially this quarter. Explicitly. Adverb. 명시적으로, 분명하게. The contract explicitly states that no refunds will be given. Hostile. Adjective. 적대적인. The military troops carefully advanced into hostile territory. Justification. Noun. 정당화, 명분. There is no justification for such violent behavior. Disarray. Noun. 혼란, 무질서. The sudden resignation left the entire department in disarray. Detrimental. Adjective. 해로운, 손해를 입히는. Smoking has a highly detrimental effect on your lungs. Unilateral. Adjective. 일방적인. The government's unilateral decision angered its international allies. Deterrence. Noun. 억지, 억지력. Nuclear weapons are often maintained as a form of deterrence. Pentagon. 펜타곤. 미국 버지니아주에 위치한 미국 국방부 청사를 지칭합니다. 건물이 오각형 모양으로 지어져 붙은 이름이며 언론에서는 흔히 미국 국방부나 미군 수뇌부 자체를 대유법으로 일컬을 때 사용합니다.
2/3. As Korea, U.S. seek to resolve outstanding issues over $200 billion investment. South Korea's industry minister, Kim Jong-kwon, announced in Dallas that Seoul and Washington are actively negotiating to resolve several outstanding issues regarding a massive $200 billion investment plan. This vast financial commitment was originally agreed upon as part of a crucial bilateral trade deal designed to lower U.S. tariff rates on South Korean imports from 25% to 15%. While $150 billion of the total $350 billion pledge has already been strategically allocated to the shipbuilding sector, the implementation details for the remaining capital are still under intense negotiation. Minister Kim candidly acknowledged that various specific issues are emerging at the working level, complicating what was expected to be a straightforward process. Nevertheless, both nations are diligently trying to iron out these complex economic differences to meet their ambitious target of announcing the finalized investment projects by late August. Vocabulary. Outstanding. Adjective. 미해결에 두드러진. There are still several outstanding debts we need to pay off. Massive. Adjective. 대규모의, 거대한. The tech giant announced a massive restructuring plan. Commitment. Noun. 약속, 헌신, 투입. The president made a firm commitment to reduce taxes. Allocate. Verb. 할당하다, 배정하다. The board decided to allocate more funds to marketing. Implementation. Noun. 이행, 실행. The successful implementation of the law will take time. Intense. Adjective. 치열한, 강렬한. The rival companies are locked in intense market competition. Candidly. Adverb. 솔직하게, 숨김없이. She spoke candidly about her struggles with mental health. Straightforward. Adjective. 복잡하지 않은, 직관적인. The instructions for assembling the desk were quite straightforward. Iron out. Phrasal verb. 해결하다, 조율하다. We need another meeting to iron out the final contract details. Ambitious. Adjective. 야심찬. The startup launched an ambitious plan to conquer the global market. 시사용어 해설. Tariff rate. 관세율. 외국에서 국내로 수입되는 물품에 대해 국가가 매기는 세금의 비율입니다. 관세율을 높이면 수입품 가격이 비싸져 자국 산업을 보호할 수 있지만 반대로 상대국도 보복 관세를 매길 수 있어 무역 분쟁의 핵심 무기가 됩니다.
3. CNN 3-1 Hurricane Lala lashes Hawaii's Big Island, leaving 1 dead. Hurricane Lala severely battered Hawaii's Big Island over the weekend, unleashing destructive winds and torrential rainfall that tragically left at least 1 person dead in a storm-related incident. Although the eye of the Category 1 storm did not make direct landfall, its massive outer rain bands triggered life-threatening flash floods across the vulnerable volcanic landscape. Certain mountainous areas received an astonishing 30 inches of rain, instantly transforming local roads into roaring rivers and causing numerous severe landslides. Widespread and prolonged power outages have completely crippled infrastructure, leaving more than 200,000 customers in the dark across the island chain. Emergency responders now face significant logistical challenges as they navigate deeply flooded streets and debris-blocked highways to rescue trapped residents and restore critical utilities. Vocabulary. Unleash. Verb. 촉발시키다. 강력한 것을 쏟아내다. The dictator unleashed a brutal wave of terror against his people. Destructive. Adjective. 파괴적인. The destructive hurricane flattened the entire coastal village. Landfall. Noun. 태풍 등의 상륙. The typhoon is expected to make landfall early tomorrow morning. Trigger. Verb. 유발하다. 촉발하다. The sudden noise triggered a massive avalanche in the snowy mountains. Flash flood. Noun. 돌발 홍수. Drivers were warned of a dangerous flash flood on the highway. Vulnerable. Adjective. 취약한, 상처받기 쉬운. The elderly are particularly vulnerable to extreme heat waves. Roaring. Adjective. 굉음을 내는, 맹렬한. The roaring fire consumed the dry wooden cabin in minutes. Cripple. Verb. 불구로 만들다, 무력화하다. The massive cyber attack crippled the nation's banking system. Logistical. Adjective. 물류의, 수송의. Transporting the vaccine required complex logistical planning. 시사용어 해설. 인프라, 사회 기반 시설. 국가나 도시가 정상적으로 굴러가기 위해 반드시 필요한 기본 시설들을 말합니다. 도로, 다리, 항만, 전기, 수도, 통신망 등이 모두 인프라에 속하며 재난 발생 시 가장 먼저 복구해야 할 핵심 대상입니다.
3-2 Recovery efforts hampered by aftershocks following Indonesia earthquake. A tremendously powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Indonesia's Flores Island, leaving at least 53 people dead and displacing thousands of terrified residents. The natural disaster severely damaged critical infrastructure, including schools, hospitals, and homes, forcing traumatized families to sleep outside in fragile makeshift tents. Further exacerbating the crisis, over 340 strong aftershocks have continuously rattled the region, severely hampering critical search and recovery efforts. Experts warn that the crucial golden window to find and rescue survivors trapped under the heavy concrete rubble is rapidly closing. Meanwhile, government officials and global aid agencies are rushing to circumvent landslide-blocked roads to deliver tons of essential relief supplies to the isolated and devastated communities. Vocabulary. Displace. Verb. 살던 곳에서 쫓아내다. The severe drought displaced millions of farmers from their land. Traumatized. Adjective. 정신적 외상을 입은. The traumatized victims of the crash received psychological counseling. Makeshift. Adjective. 임시변통해. The refugees built a makeshift camp using plastic sheets. Exacerbate. Verb. 악화시키다. His aggressive comments only exacerbated the already tense situation. Rattle. Verb. 뒤흔들다. 당황하게 하다. The sudden sonic boom rattled the windows of our house. Hamper. Verb. 방해하다. 지연시키다. Heavy snowfall severely hampered the rescue team's progress. Rubble. Noun. 돌무더기. 잔해. Rescue workers dug through the rubble to find survivors. Circumvent. Verb. 우회하다. 피하다. Clever accountants often find ways to circumvent tax laws. Devastated. Adjective. 황폐화된. 엄청난 충격을 받은. The local community was devastated by the closure of the factory. 시사용어 해설. Golden window, golden time. 재난, 사고, 심정지 등의 위급한 상황에서 생존자를 구조하거나 응급조치를 취해 생명을 살릴 수 있는 가장 결정적인 시간을 의미합니다. 보통 매몰 사고 시 생존 한계 시간인 72시간을 뜻합니다.
Number 3. Ukraine launches massive drone attack deep into Russia. Marking a severe escalation in the conflict, Ukraine has launched one of its most massive and coordinated drone attacks deep into Russian territory, including targets near Moscow. With ground forces facing a grueling and bloody stalemate at the front lines, both nations have strategically shifted tactics to heavily ramp up long-range strikes. These strikes aim to ruthlessly cripple each other's rear infrastructure, economies, and logistical supply chains. Despite Russian air defenses claiming to intercept nearly 1,500 Ukrainian drones, the surviving UAVs successfully ignited large, uncontrollable fires at key distribution warehouses. Conversely, a heavy barrage of Russian missiles severely damaged a major steel plant in Ukraine, and these relentless, tit-for-tat aerial assaults have pushed the civilian death toll to tragic new highs. Vocabulary. Escalation. Noun. danger적 확대, 고조. The sudden troop deployment led to a rapid military escalation. Grueling. Adjective. 녹초로 만드는, 맹렬한. The runners completed a grueling 50-mile marathon in the desert. Stalemate. Noun. 교착 상태. After weeks of strikes, the union negotiations reached a stalemate. Ramp up. Phrasal verb. 늘리다, 강화하다. The manufacturer decided to ramp up production ahead of the holidays. Ruthlessly. Adverb. 무자비하게. The dictator ruthlessly crushed any political opposition. Intercept. Verb. 가로채다, 유격하다. The intelligence agency managed to intercept the enemy's secret message. Barrage. Noun. 일제사격, 질문 등의 세례. The celebrity faced a barrage of flashing cameras and questions. Tit for tat. Adjective. 보복에, 눈에는 눈, 이에는 이. The trade war turned into a tit-for-tat exchange of high tariffs. 시사용어 해설. Stalemate, 교착 상태. 본래 체스에서 왕, 킹이, 체크, 장군 상태가 아닌데도 움직일 곳이 하나도 없어 무승부로 끝나는 상황을 뜻합니다. 외교나 전쟁 기사에서는 어느 쪽도 승리하지 못하고 양보도 하지 않아 상황이 꽉 막힌 답보 상태를 묘사할 때 자주 쓰입니다. 4. BBC 4-1. U.S. envoys meet mediators in Egypt to advance Gaza peace plan. U.S. diplomatic envoys recently arrived in Cairo to engage in critical meetings with Egyptian, Qatari, and Turkish mediators aimed at advancing a comprehensive Gaza peace plan. According to regional sources, Hamas officials were also notably present at several of these high-stakes diplomatic gatherings. The primary objective of the alliance is to establish a viable and lasting ceasefire framework that satisfies the complex demands of all warring factions.
However, the diplomatic progress remains incredibly fragile and constantly overshadowed as Israel resolutely continues to press on with deadly airstrikes across the besieged Gaza Strip. The international community is watching these delicate negotiations with bated breath, desperately hoping the mediators can finally orchestrate an end to the prolonged and devastating humanitarian crisis. Vocabulary: envoy, noun, sajil, tuksa. The UN sent a special peace envoy to the conflict zone. High stakes, adjective, 큰 돈이 걸린, 중대한. The presidents engaged in high-stakes diplomatic negotiations. Objective, noun, 목적, 목표. The main objective of this campaign is to raise environmental awareness. Viable, adjective, 실행 가능한, 실용적인. We must brainstorm to find a commercially viable solution. Faction, noun, 파벌, 당파. The political party eventually split into two warring factions. Fragile, adjective, 깨지기 쉬운, 취약한. The economy's recovery is still very fragile and needs support. Overshadow, verb, 빛을 잃게 만들다, 그늘지게 하다. Her brilliant academic success was overshadowed by her recent scandal. Besieged, adjective, 포위됨. Airdrops were used to deliver food to the besieged city. Orchestrate, verb, 조직화하다, 교묘히 획책하다. The manager managed to orchestrate a highly successful marketing event. 시사 용어 해설. High stakes, 중대한, 리스크가 큼. 포커 같은 도박에서 판돈, 스테이크이 매우 높게 걸려있다는 뜻에서 유래했습니다. 협상이나 회담이 실패했을 때 치러야 할 대가, 전쟁, 경제 붕괴 등가 엄청나게 크지만 성공했을 때의 보상도 매우 큰, 중대한 결정의 순간을 묘사할 때 자주 쓰이는 단어입니다.
4-2. Search for survivors continues after devastating earthquake in Colombia. Search and rescue teams are frantically working through the twisted metal and rubble of collapsed buildings in western Colombia, nearly a week after a powerful magnitude 7.5 earthquake. The catastrophic quake has devastated major urban centers like Cali and Pereira, officially claiming roughly 290 lives, while leaving hundreds missing and over 4,200 injured. Emergency workers are bravely risking their lives amid dangerous, ongoing aftershocks in the fading hope of finding remaining survivors trapped in the debris. However, officials somberly admit that rescue efforts are increasingly transitioning into grim body recovery operations as the likelihood of discovering signs of life dwindles. To combat the immense tragedy, the newly elected president and local billionaires are pooling vast domestic resources to urgently reconstruct destroyed schools and hospitals. Vocabulary: frantically, adverb, 미친 듯이, 극도로 흥분하여. The mother frantically searched the crowded mall for her lost child. Catastrophic, adjective, 파멸적인, 대재앙이. A catastrophic failure in the engine caused the plane to crash. Roughly, adverb, 대략, 어림잡아. There were roughly 2,000 people attending the outdoor concert. Fading, adjective, 희미해지는, 시들어가는. The fading sunlight painted the evening sky with beautiful orange hues. Somberly, adverb, 침통하게, 어두컴컴하게. The doctor somberly informed the family of the tragic news. Transition, verb, 전환되다. The startup is transitioning from a small team to a global corporation. Grim, adjective, 암울한, 엄숙한. The police discovered a grim scene inside the abandoned house. Dwindle, verb, 줄어들다, 작아지다. The town's population began to dwindle as young people moved away. Pool, verb, 모으다. The roommates decided to pool their money to buy a new television. Reconstruction, 재건, 부흥. 전쟁이나 거대한 자연재해, 지진, 쓰나미 등으로 인해 물리적으로 파괴된 도시의 인프라, 건물, 그리고 국가 경제 시스템을 다시 짓고
원래 상태보다 낮게 회복시키는 거시적인 과정을 의미합니다. 건설업과 직결되어 막대한 경제적 자본이 투입됩니다.
4-3. Wildfires across Europe leave deaths and destruction amid record heat. Devastating wildfires continue to rapidly ravage multiple countries across Europe, leaving a tragic trail of death and immense ecological destruction. Triggered by a historically hot summer and exacerbated by tinder-dry conditions, monstrous fires in Greece, Spain, and Belgium have forced the massive evacuation of thousands of residents. Firefighters, highly supported by water-dropping aircraft and deployed military personnel, are battling tirelessly to bring the fast-moving infernos under control. Tragically, the fierce flames have already claimed the lives of trapped civilians in Greece and a brave military responder in Spain. Climate scientists urgently warn that these extreme weather events and resulting catastrophes are becoming exponentially more frequent as a direct consequence of global warming. Vocabulary. Ravage. Verb. 파괴하다, 휩쓸다. The severe hurricane completely ravaged the beautiful coastal villages. Immense. Adjective. 엄청난, 어마어마한. The charity project required an immense amount of time and money.
Tinder dry. Adjective. 불쏘시개처럼 건조한. A single dropped match can ignite a fire in this tinder dry forest. Evacuation. Noun. 대피. 철수. Authorities ordered a mass evacuation of the city before the flood. Deploy. Verb. 군대, 무기를 배치하다. The government will deploy National Guards to maintain order in the city. Tirelessly. Adverb. 지칠 줄 모르고, 끊임없이. The medical team worked tirelessly to save the victims of the crash. Inferno. Noun. 걷잡을 수 없이 큰 불. The old wooden warehouse was quickly reduced to a blazing inferno. Exponentially. Adverb. 기하급수적으로. The popularity of the new social media app grew exponentially. Consequence. Noun. 결과, 파급 효과. You must be prepared to face the logical consequences of your actions. 시사 용어 해설. Climate change. 기후변화. 화석 연료 사용과 온실가스 배출 등 인간의 산업 활동으로 인해 지구의 평균 기온이 상승하고 이로 in해 폭염, 대형 산불, 초강력 허리케인 등 극단적이고 변칙적인 기상이변이 일상화되는 현상을 말합니다.
5-point ABC Australia 5-1. Shipping slows through Strait of Hormuz amid soaring geopolitical tensions. Commercial shipping traffic through the highly strategic Strait of Hormuz has slowed significantly due to soaring and unpredictable geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. Global oil tankers and shipping companies are extremely hesitant to navigate the critical, narrow waterway amid mounting fears of direct military escalation between the U.S. and Iran.
This sudden logistical slowdown has raised serious alarms worldwide regarding potentially devastating disruptions to the global energy supply chain. Consequently, benchmark crude oil prices have jumped sharply, putting severe inflationary pressure on international equity markets, particularly in heavily reliant regions like the Asia-Pacific. Economists sternly warn that a prolonged blockade or continuous slow steaming could trigger a substantial global economic downturn. Vocabulary. Strategic. Adjective. 전략적인. 중요한. The island holds a highly strategic military position in the ocean. Soar. Verb. 치솟다, 급등하다. Real estate prices continue to soar in the crowded capital city. Hesitant. Adjective. 주저하는, 망설이는. He was hesitant to accept the risky job offer in a foreign country. Navigate. Verb. 항해하다, 길을 찾다. Modern ships use advanced GPS systems to safely navigate the sea. Escalation. Noun. 확대, 고조. The UN warned against any further military escalation in the region. Disruption. Noun. 지장, 붕괴, 중단. A massive strike by train drivers caused severe travel disruption. Inflationary. Adjective. inflation에. 물가 상승을 유발하는.
Rising fuel costs have a direct inflationary effect on consumer goods. Reliant. Adjective. 의존하는.
The small town's economy is heavily reliant on the summer tourism industry. Blockade. Noun. 봉쇄. The Navy formed a strict blockade to stop enemy supply ships. 시사용어 해설. Strait of Hormuz. 호르무즈 해협. 페르시아만과 오만만을 연결하는 폭이 좁은 바닷길로 전 세계에서 생산되는 원유의 약 20에서 30%가 배를 통해 이곳을 통과합니다. 이 해협이 기뢰나 군사적 충돌로 봉쇄될 경우 전 세계 석유 공급이 끊겨 유가가 폭등하게 되는 세계 경제의 가장 치명적인 급소, 초크 포인트 중 하나입니다.
5.2 Global stock markets decline in early trade amid rising crude oil prices. Global benchmark indices drifted noticeably lower in early trading sessions this week as rapidly rising crude oil prices weighed heavily on fragile investor sentiment. The sudden spike in energy costs is deeply embedded in the geopolitical risk premium surrounding the volatile Middle Eastern tensions. Brent crude steadily climbed as renewed stern U.S. warnings against potential Iranian actions spooked the global energy markets into pricing in supply shocks. Financial analysts worry that persistently expensive oil will derail central banks' efforts to control inflation, thereby delaying any anticipated cuts in borrowing costs. Consequently, highly cautious investors are actively shifting their capital away from riskier equities and seeking refuge in traditional safe haven assets like gold and government bonds. Vocabulary. Drift. Verb. 표리하다. 서서히 이동하다. The abandoned boat began to drift away from the rocky shore. Fragile. Adjective. 취약한. 부서지기 쉬운. The economic recovery is still fragile and needs continuous government support. Embed. Verb. 박다. 깊이 내재시키다. The surgeon successfully embedded a small tracking microchip under the skin. Volatile. Adjective. 변동성이 큰, 불안정한. The stock market has been highly volatile due to recent political events. Spook. Verb. 겁먹게 하다. The sudden drop in quarterly profits spooked the company's major shareholders. Derail. Verb. 탈선시키다. 계획을 무산시키다. A minor accounting mistake can easily derail the entire corporate merger. Anticipate. Verb. 예상하다. 기대하다. We anticipate a significant increase in sales during the holiday season. Refuge. Noun. 피난처. 도피처. The homeless sought refuge in the underground station during the storm. Safe haven. Noun. 안전자산. 안전한 곳. Investors traditionally flock to gold as a safe haven during financial crises. 시사용어 해설. Risk premium. 위험 프리미엄. 투자자가 불확실성이나 위험, risk를 감수하는 대가로 요구하는 추가적인 수익이나 가격 인상분을 말합니다. 중동의 전쟁 날 위험이 커지면 석유 공급이 끊길 위험이 생기므로 그 위험만큼 기름값이 미리 비싸지는 현상을 지정학적 위험 프리미엄이 반영되었다고 표현합니다.
5-3 Thousands displaced in Indonesia following powerful earthquake. A horrific magnitude 7.7 earthquake in neighboring Indonesia has left tens of thousands of citizens completely displaced and fearful for their lives. Desperate and traumatized residents are currently camping outside schools and police stations, terrified to return to their unstable homes as hundreds of violent aftershocks continue to strike. The massive initial tremors completely shattered local infrastructure, cracking thick concrete walls and collapsing entire residential buildings across the island. Relief agencies are facing extreme logistical difficulties as they struggle to transport tents, clean water, and vital medical supplies to the worst-hit isolated villages blockaded by landslides. The Australian government, alongside global charities, is closely monitoring the dire situation to rapidly provide necessary humanitarian assistance. Vocabulary. Horrific. Adjective. 끔찍한, 소름 끼치는. The horrific multi-car accident on the highway caused a massive traffic jam. Desperate. Adjective. 필사적인, 절망적인. The stranded hikers made a desperate satellite phone call for help.
terrified. Adjective. 몹시 두려워하는. The loud, unexpected explosion left the entire neighborhood terrified. Shatter. Verb. 산산조각내다. The errant baseball completely shattered the living room window. Vital. Adjective. 필수적인, 생명과 직결된. A functioning hospital is absolutely vital for the survival of the community. Worst hit. Adjective. 가장 큰 타격을 입은. The worst hit coastal areas will receive emergency funding first. Blockade. Verb. 봉쇄하다, 차단하다. The fallen trees blockaded the only road leading out of the village. Dire. Adjective. 대단히 심각한, 끔찍한. The war refugees are in dire need of basic medical supplies. Humanitarian. Adjective. 인도주의적인. The United Nations launched a massive humanitarian mission in the region. A blow-up.
Six. CGTN 6-1. China's Long March 12 rocket launches new Internet satellite group. China successfully sent a new, advanced batch of Internet satellites into orbit on Sunday from a commercial spacecraft launch site located in the southern island province of Hainan. This specific deployment represents the 24th group of low-orbit Internet satellites seamlessly lifting off aboard a powerful Long March 12 carrier rocket. The satellites smoothly entered their preset orbits, marking another significant milestone in Beijing's aggressive pursuit of expanding its global digital and telecommunications infrastructure. By systematically establishing a robust low-Earth orbit satellite network, China aims to fiercely compete with Western aerospace rivals, like SpaceX's Starlink. This successful launch deeply underscores the nation's strategic ambition to dominate the highly lucrative future of commercial space internet services. Vocabulary. Batch. Noun. 한 번에 만들어지는 무리, 집단. The bakery just finished baking a fresh batch of chocolate cookies. Orbit. Noun. 궤도. The satellite was successfully placed into Earth's lower orbit. Deployment. Noun. 배치, 전개. The rapid deployment of 5G networks changed the tech landscape. Seamlessly. Adverb. 매끄럽게, 이음새 없이. The new software update integrated seamlessly with the old operating system. Milestone. Noun. 이정표, 획기적인 사건. The invention of the internet was a major milestone in human history. Robust. Adjective. 견고한, 탄탄한. The company reported highly robust financial growth this quarter. Aerospace. Noun. 우주항공. She dreams of becoming an engineer in the growing aerospace industry. Underscore. Verb. 강조하다, 밑줄을 긋다. The recent tragic accident underscores the urgent need for better safety rules. Lucrative. Adjective. 수익성이 좋은, 돈이 되는. Real estate investment can be a highly lucrative business venture. 시사용어 해설. Low Earth orbit, 저궤도. 지구 표면에서 약 200km에서 2000km 사이의 비교적 낮은 우주 공간을 말합니다. 위성이 지구와 가까워 통신 지연 시간이 짧기 때문에 일론 머스크의 스타링크나 중국의 이번 인터넷 위성처럼 전 세계 초고속 우주 인터넷망을 구축하는 데 핵심적인 위치입니다. 6-2. 12 critically endangered giant shovel-nosed ray pups born in Sanya. In a remarkable conservation achievement, 12 pups of the critically endangered giant shovel-nosed ray have been successfully bred in captivity in Sanya, southern China. Born in late July, the thriving pups are now feeding independently on pieces of shrimp, carefully monitored by dedicated aquarium staff to maintain pristine water quality. The giant shovel-nosed ray plays an incredibly important role in maintaining the delicate balance of the marine ecosystem, but has suffered a sharp decline in wild populations. Because the species is notoriously sensitive to minor changes in water temperature and environmental conditions, captive breeding is considered exceptionally challenging. Researchers now plan to closely track their growth and actively collaborate with international organizations to advance the ex situ conservation of cartilaginous fish. Vocabulary. Conservation. Noun. 보존, 보호. Wildlife conservation efforts are necessary to save endangered tigers. Critically. Adverb. 비판적으로, 위태롭게. The patient remains in a critically unstable condition after the surgery. Endangered. Adjective. 멸종 위기에 처한. The giant panda is one of the world's most famous endangered species. Captivity.
Noun. 사육, 갇혀있음. Animals bred in captivity often struggle to survive in the wild. Thriving. Adjective. 번성하는, 잘 자라는. The newly planted trees are thriving in the rich, moist soil. Pristine. Adjective. 완전 새것 같은, 오염되지 않은. The explorers discovered a beautiful, pristine beach untouched by humans. Notoriously. Adverb. 악명 높게. The local traffic is notoriously bad during the morning rush hour. Ex situ. Adjective. 서식지 외에, Latino. Zoos play a huge role in the ex situ conservation of rare animals. Collaborate. Verb. 협력하다. The two universities will collaborate on a new scientific research project. 시사 영어 해설. Captive breeding. 사육 번식. 야생에서 멸종 위기에 처한 동물을 동물원이나 수족관 같은 통제된 시설 captivity 안에서 인공적으로 번식시켜 개체 수를 늘리는 생태 보호 활동입니다. 야생 개체군이 스스로 회복할 수 없을 때 최고의 수단으로 사용됩니다.
6-3. Wang Manyu wins third Grand Smash title in Malmo. Chinese table tennis star Wang Manyu successfully claimed her third WTT Grand Smash women's singles title at the Europe Smash tournament held in Malmo, Sweden. In a fiercely contested all-Chinese final, Wang brilliantly edged past her compatriot Wang Yidi with a hard-fought 4-2 victory over 6 intense games. The match was a spectacular display of high-level skill, where mental resilience and the ability to ruthlessly seize key moments proved absolutely decisive. During the post-match interview, Wang admitted she hadn't been at her absolute best earlier in the season, making this triumphant victory a vital boost to her overall confidence. Meanwhile, China wrapped up the prestigious tournament by also dominating the mixed doubles event, reaffirming their absolute supremacy in global table tennis. Vocabulary. Fiercely. Adverb. 치열하게. 맹렬하게. The two rival companies fiercely competed for market dominance. Compatriot. Noun. 동포. 자국 동료. The athlete was proud to stand on the podium next to his compatriot. Hard-fought. Adjective. 치열한 접전 끝에. The team celebrated their hard-fought victory in the championship game. Spectacular. Adjective. 장관을 이루는. 환상적임. The fireworks display over the bridge was truly spectacular. Resilience. Noun. 회복력. 탄성. Children often show remarkable resilience when adapting to new environments. Decisive. Adjective. 결정적인, 결단력 있는. The general's quick thinking proved decisive in winning the battle. Triumphant. Adjective. 크게 성공한, 위기양양한. The triumphant army returned home to a massive parade. Prestigious. Adjective. 권위 있는, 명망 있는. She was accepted into a highly prestigious medical school in London. Supremacy. Noun. Pick one. We. The tech giant maintained its absolute supremacy in the smartphone market. 시사 용어 해설. Supremacy, 패권, 우위. 스포츠나 경제, 군사 분야에서 다른 경쟁자들을 압도하고 가장 높은 위치에 군림하는 상태를 뜻합니다. 미국과 중국의 기술 패권, tech supremacy, 경쟁이라는 표현으로 시사 뉴스에 자주 등장합니다. Number 7. NHK World Japan. Number 7. 1. Japan's Nikkei 225 trades higher despite rising crude oil prices. Despite the looming shadow of rising global crude oil prices, Japan's Nikkei 225 index displayed remarkable resilience by trading higher in early Monday sessions. While soaring energy costs, driven by intense geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, typically spook equity markets, the Japanese market benefited from localized economic factors. Specifically, a persistently weak yen has heavily bolstered profit expectations for major Japanese export-driven corporations, offsetting the negative impacts of expensive oil imports. Nevertheless, foreign institutional investors remain highly cautious, carefully rotating their capital out of volatile semiconductor stocks. Analysts warn that if U.S.-Iran skirmishes severely escalate and disrupt the Strait of Hormuz, the optimistic momentum in Tokyo could quickly reverse. Vocabulary. Looming. Adjective. 불길하게 다가오는, 어렴풋이 보이는. The looming threat of a global recession made investors nervous. Resilience. Noun. 회복력, 탄력. The local economy showed great resilience after the natural disaster. Spook. Verb. 겁먹게 하다. The unexpected drop in consumer spending spooked the retail market. Bolster. Verb. 지지하다. 강화하다. The government introduced new policies to bolster the failing housing market. Offset. Verb. 상쇄하다. The company's gains in software sales offset their losses in hardware. Institutional. Adjective. 기관에, 제도에. Institutional investors like banks hold massive amounts of company stock. Volatile. Adjective. 변동성이 큰. Cryptocurrencies are known for being highly volatile assets. Skirmish. Noun. 소규모 충돌, 국지전. A border skirmish broke out between the two rival military patrols. Momentum. Noun. 추진력, momentum. The political campaign gained significant momentum after the televised debate. 시사용어 해설. 위기엔, 엔화 약세, 엔저. 일본 돈인 엔화의 가치가 미국 달러 등 다른 통화에 비해 떨어지는 현상입니다. 엔화 가치가 떨어지면 일본 기업들이 만든 자동차나 전자제품을 해외에 수출할 때 달러로 환산한 가격이 싸지기 때문에 가격 경쟁력이 생겨 수출 기업의 이익이 크게 늘어납니다.
7.2. Hurricane Lala triggers severe warnings across the Pacific. Hurricane Lala has aggressively triggered severe heavy rainfall and destructive wind warnings across expansive regions of the Pacific. Having already brushed past Hawaii and caused massive infrastructural damage with over 30 inches of torrential rain, the storm is demonstrating exceptional power. Meteorologists emphasize that prevailing El Niño conditions have deeply warmed ocean waters, creating an environment exceptionally ripe for explosive tropical cyclone development this year. As a direct consequence, coastal areas are enduring unprecedented flash flooding and catastrophic power outages that completely paralyze daily life. Authorities are urgently advising all Pacific nations, including Japan, to remain highly vigilant and prepare long-term strategies for increasingly powerful weather anomalies. Vocabulary. Expansive. Adjective. 광범위한, 넓은. The hotel offers an expansive view of the beautiful blue ocean. Torrential. Adjective. 양동이로 들이붓는 듯한. Torrential rains flooded the basement of the old building. Prevailing. Adjective. 우세한. 지배적인. The prevailing scientific theory explains how the universe expanded. Ripe. Adjective. 무르익은. 적합한. After years of planning, the time is finally ripe for launching our startup. Explosive. Adjective. 폭발적인. The tech industry has seen explosive growth over the last decade. Unprecedented. Adjective. 전례 없는. The pandemic led to an unprecedented shutdown of global travel. Paralyze. Verb. 마비시키다. The severe blizzard threatened to completely paralyze the city's transport system. Vigilant. Adjective. 바짝 경계하는. Security personnel must remain vigilant during the massive public concert. Anomaly. Noun. 변칙. 이변. A sudden snowstorm in mid-July is a bizarre weather anomaly. 시사용어 해설. El Niño. El Niño. 적도 부근의 태평양 바닷물 온도가 평년보다 비정상적으로 높아지는 기후 현상입니다. 바닷물이 따뜻해지면 수증기가 많이 증발하여 대기가 불안정해지며 이로 인해 지구 한쪽에서는 엄청난 폭우나 초강력 허리케인이 다른 쪽에서는 극심한 가뭄이 발생하는 등 전 세계 날씨를 엉망으로 만듭니다.
7-3. Japan urged to reflect on history as regional tensions persist. Japan is currently facing renewed, intense calls to deeply reflect on its controversial history as delicate regional tensions in East Asia continue to persist. International critics and neighboring diplomats strictly warn that downplaying severe wartime aggression irreparably damages mutual trust with surrounding countries. The sensitive anniversary of World War II's surrender constantly highlights these deep historical scars, particularly regarding conservative politicians visiting controversial monuments like the Yasukuni Shrine. Surrounding nations fiercely argue that a sincere, unambiguous acknowledgement of past colonial mistakes is absolutely crucial for long-term regional stability. Without genuine historical reflection and contrition, building cooperative and forward-looking bilateral relationships remains an incredibly difficult geopolitical challenge. Vocabulary. reflect. Verb, 반성하다, 돌아보다. After the failure, he took time to reflect on his strategic mistakes. Persist. Verb, 고집하다, 계속 지속되다. If the pain persists for more than 3 days, please see a doctor. Downplay. Verb, 경시하다, 대수롭지 않게 여기다. The CEO tried to downplay the severity of the massive data breach. Aggression. Noun. 침략, 공격성. The unprovoked military aggression was condemned by the United Nations. Irreparably. Adverb. 돌이킬 수 없게, 회복할 수 없게. The scandal damaged the politician's public reputation irreparably. Controversial. Adjective. 논란이 많은. The government passed a highly controversial bill regarding tax hikes. Unambiguous. Adjective. 모호하지 않은, 명백한. The general gave a clear and unambiguous order to his troops. Contrition. Noun. 뉘우침, 회개. The criminal showed no signs of contrition during the long trial. Geopolitical. Adjective. 지정학적인. Control over the oil-rich region is a major geopolitical issue. Geopolitical. 지정학적인. 지리, 지오와 정치, politics가 합쳐진 단어로 한 국가의 지리적 위치나 환경이 그 나라의 정치, 외교, 군사력에 미치는 영향을 설명할 때 씁니다. 한국, 중국, 일본이 모여있는 동아시아는 위치상 서로에게 엄청난 영향을 주고받기 때문에 지정학적 요충지로 불립니다.
8. AlJazeera.com. 8-1. At least 12 people killed in Hungary tourist bus crash. A horrific road tragedy occurred in Hungary when a large tourist bus abruptly veered off the busy M3 motorway and violently overturned into a deep ditch. The severely mangled vehicle, which was carrying dozens of tourists from Poland, crashed with such immense force that at least 12 people died instantly at the scene. Emergency services and medical helicopters were immediately dispatched to frantically rescue trapped passengers and treat the numerous critically injured victims. Highway police have heavily cordoned off the entire area to meticulously conduct a thorough forensic investigation into the exact mechanical or human causes of the crash. National authorities publicly expressed their deepest condolences to the grieving families directly affected by this devastating vehicular catastrophe. Vocabulary. Tragedy. Noun. 비극. 참사. The Shakespearean play tells the heartbreaking tragedy of a young prince. Veer. Verb. 방향을 획 틀다. The speeding car suddenly veered across the center line to avoid a deer. Overturn. Verb. 전복되다. 뒤집히다. The powerful wind gusts caused the small sailing boat to overturn. Mangled. Adjective.
2. 지식여진. 심하게 훼손된. The mechanics tried to repair the mangled metal frame of the crashed car. Dispatch. Verb. 파견하다. The fire department dispatched 3 trucks to the burning factory. Critically. Adverb. 비판적으로, 위독하게. The driver is still in the hospital, critically injured from the accident. Cordon off. Phrasal verb. 통제선을 치다. The police cordoned off the entire street to secure the active crime scene. Meticulously. Adverb. 꼼꼼하게, 세심하게. The detective meticulously examined every inch of the room for fingerprints. Condolence. Noun. 애도, 조의. We offer our sincere condolences to the family who lost their beloved son. 시사용어 해설. Cordon off. 출입을 통제하다. 경찰이나 군대가 범죄 현장, 테러 현장 또는 대형 교통사고 현장을 일반인들로부터 보호하고 증거를 보존하기 위해 폴리스 라인,
접근 금지 테이프나 바리케이드를 쳐서 사람들의 출입을 막는 행위를 뜻합니다.
8.2. U.S. envoys meet mediators in Egypt as Israel continues strikes on Gaza. U.S. envoys held critical, high-stakes meetings with senior mediators in Cairo to forcefully advance a comprehensive peace plan for the war-torn Gaza Strip. Elite Egyptian, Qatari, and Turkish officials, alongside key Hamas representatives, gathered closely to aggressively negotiate a viable and lasting ceasefire agreement. However, this fragile diplomatic progress is severely overshadowed by Israel's relentless and deadly airstrikes continuing unabated across the blockaded enclave. The fierce, ongoing military operations make it incredibly difficult to build the essential mutual trust required to enforce any negotiated truce. The desperate international community is watching intently, hoping these complex talks will finally end a catastrophic humanitarian crisis that has claimed countless innocent lives. Vocabulary. War-torn. Adjective. 전쟁으로 피폐해진. The charity provides aid to children living in war-torn countries. Comprehensive. Adjective. 포괄적인, 종합적인. The university offers a comprehensive training program for new teachers. Viable. Adjective. 실현 가능한, 실행 가능한. Solar power is increasingly becoming a viable alternative to fossil fuels. Overshadow. Verb. 빛을 잃게 하다, 무색하게 하다. The team's victory was overshadowed by a massive cheating scandal. Relentless. Adjective. 가차없는, 끈질긴. The relentless heat wave lasted for 3 weeks without any rain. Unabated. Adjective. 수그러들지 않는. The storm continued with unabated fury throughout the darkest night. Enclave. Noun. 고립된 지역. 월경지. The small mountainous region remains an independent enclave within the country. Mutual. Adjective. 상호간에. A successful business partnership is built on mutual respect and trust. Truce. Noun. 휴전. The two rival street gangs finally agreed to a temporary truce. 시사용어 해설. Enclave. 월경지, 고립지역. 프랑스어에서 유래한 말로 어떤 나라의 영토가 다른 나라의 영토에 의해 완전히 둘러싸여 고립된 지역을 뜻합니다. 국제뉴스에서는 이스라엘 영토와 장벽으로 꽉 둘러싸여 외부와 단절된 채 살아가는 팔레스타인의 가자지구, 가자 스트립을 묘사할 때 대명사처럼 쓰입니다. 8-3. Shipping slows through Strait of Hormuz amid soaring tensions. Global shipping traffic passing through the highly strategic Strait of Hormuz has slowed dramatically due to soaring and unpredictable geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. Major oil tankers and international freight companies are extremely hesitant to navigate the critical waterway amid mounting fears of violent military escalation involving the U.S. and Iran. This sudden, fear-driven logistical slowdown has raised serious alarms regarding potentially catastrophic disruptions to the global energy supply chain. Consequently, benchmark crude oil prices have jumped significantly, instantly putting severe inflationary pressure on heavily dependent international equity markets. Top economists sternly warn that a prolonged maritime blockade could easily trigger a substantial global economic downturn by skyrocketing production costs. Vocabulary. Dramatically. Adverb. 극적으로, 급격히. The popularity of electric vehicles has increased dramatically in recent years. Soar. Verb. 치솟다, 급등하다. Consumer complaints began to soar after the controversial software update. Hesitant. Adjective. 주저하는. She was initially hesitant to accept the challenging leadership role. Navigate. Verb. 항해하다. 복잡한 상황을 타개하다. The CEO successfully navigated the company through the severe financial crisis. Escalation. Noun. 확대. 악화. We must act quickly to prevent the escalation of this minor conflict into a war. Disruption. Noun. 붕괴. 지장. A sudden strike by airport workers caused widespread flight disruption. Inflationary. Adjective. inflation에, 물가를 올리는. Printing too much money usually has a strong inflationary effect on the economy. Blockade. Noun. 봉쇄, 차단. The military formed a naval blockade to cut off the enemy's food supply. Downturn. Noun. 경제의 침체, 하락. The global pandemic resulted in a sharp economic downturn. 시사 용어 해설. Supply chain, 공급망. 어떤 제품이 생산되어 최종 소비자에게 전달되기까지 거치는 모든 단계를 말합니다. 원자재 채굴, 부품 제조, 조립, 배송, 판매. 호르무즈 해협과 같은 물류 요충지가 막히면 공장에 기름이 안 가고 부품을 못 만들고 완제품 배송이 멈추는 시기에 공급망 붕괴, supply chain disruption가 발생합니다.
9. CBC Canada. 9-1. How Iowans feel about Trump's tariffs and Canada's treatment in trade. U.S. President Donald Trump's aggressive and controversial tariff policies have sparked intense political debates among voters and struggling farmers in rural Iowa. As Canada steadfastly remains the state's largest and most crucial export market, newly proposed cross-border trade barriers threaten to severely damage local agriculture. While Trump's trade officials vehemently argue these high tariffs are absolutely necessary to protect American workers and incentivize domestic manufacturing, the reality on the ground feels starkly different. Many Iowan farmers are barely scraping by and harbor deep fears of catastrophic retaliatory tariffs from key international trading partners. Consequently, the upcoming regional elections will likely hinge heavily on whether voters perceive these protectionist economic strategies as a cure or a curse for their livelihoods. Vocabulary. Aggressive. Adjective. 공격적인. The tech startup launched an aggressive marketing campaign to win customers. Steadfastly. Adverb. 확고하게, 변함없이. She steadfastly refused to compromise her strong moral principles. Barrier. Noun. 장벽. High import taxes act as a massive barrier to international free trade. Vehemently. Adverb. 열렬하게, 격렬하게. The politician vehemently denied the shocking corruption allegations. Incentivize. Verb. 장려하다, 동기를 주다. The government offered tax breaks to incentivize companies to hire more staff. Scrape by. Phrasal verb. 근근히 살아가다. With his tiny salary, he was just scraping by to pay his monthly rent. Retaliatory. Adjective. 보복적인. The nation launched swift retaliatory airstrikes against the enemy base. Hinge on. Phrasal verb. 뭐뭐에 전적으로 달려있다. The overall success of the project hinges entirely on your final approval. Protectionist. Adjective. 보호무역주의에. The president's protectionist policies aim to block cheap foreign imports. Retaliatory tariffs. 보복관세. 눈에는 눈, 이에는 이 방식의 무역 조치입니다. A국가가 B국가의 물건에 억지로 세금, 관세를 높게 매겨 수입을 막으면 화가 난 B국가도 A국가의 물건, 예를 들어 아이오와주의 농산물에 세금을 왕창 매겨 안 사주는 것을 말합니다. 결국 양쪽 다 경제적 피해를 입는 무역 전쟁으로 번지게 됩니다. 9-2. The invisible extinction. Why algae, mosses, and lichens are disappearing. Environmental scientists are uncovering a deeply troubling ecological phenomenon dubbed the invisible extinction, where foundational tiny organisms like algae, mosses, and lichens are rapidly disappearing globally. Alarmingly, research shows that even when larger animals and majestic trees successfully return to restored habitats, these minuscule but critical species stubbornly remain absent. Ecologists clearly point out that human-driven climate change, pervasive chemical pollution, and rampant habitat destruction are the primary drivers quietly wiping them out. These unassuming small organisms are incredibly vital for actively absorbing atmospheric carbon and meticulously maintaining soil health across various diverse ecosystems. Losing them permanently could trigger devastating ripple effects that threaten the stability of the entire global food chain and accelerate climate change. Vocabulary. Uncover. Verb. 알아내다, 적발하다. The investigative journalist uncovered a massive corporate corruption scandal. Phenomenon. Noun. 현상.
The beautiful northern lights are a completely natural weather phenomenon. Dub, verb, 별명, 이름을 붙이다. The excited press dubbed the talented young singer the king of pop. Minuscule, adjective, 극소의, 아주 작은. The scientist adjusted the microscope to see the minuscule bacteria cells. Stubbornly, adverb, 완고하게, 고집스럽게. The stain on the carpet stubbornly refused to come out despite washing. Pervasive, adjective, 만연하는, 스며드는. There is a pervasive feeling of anxiety among students during exam week. Rampant, adjective, 걷잡을 수 없는, 만연한. Rampant inflation has completely destroyed the country's fragile economy. Vital, adjective, 필수적인, 생명과 직결되는. A steady supply of clean water is vital for maintaining human life. Ripple effect, noun, 파급 효과, 연쇄 반응. The bank's sudden collapse caused a massive ripple effect across the economy. 시사용어 해설, ripple effect, 파급 효과, 연쇄 반응. 잔잔한 호수에 작은 돌멩이를 하나 던지면 물결, ripple가 동그랗게 꼬리를 물고 사방으로 퍼져나가는 현상에서 유래했습니다. 눈에 안 띄는 이끼 하나가 멸종했을 뿐인데 벌레가 죽고 새가 죽고 숲이 죽는 식으로 하나의 작은 사건이 주변의 다른 여러 분야로 연달아 걷잡을 수 없이 큰 영향을 미치는 현상을 뜻합니다.
9-3. RCMP investigates after body of a 52-year-old man found in the Bow River. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, are conducting a meticulous and thorough investigation after a lifeless body was surprisingly discovered floating in the Bow River. Early Sunday morning, alerted emergency medical responders located and retrieved the deceased 52-year-old man from the icy water just east of Canmore. The exact sequence of circumstances and the medical cause of the man's tragic death remain entirely unclear at this preliminary stage of the probe. Dedicated investigators have firmly cordoned off the muddy riverbank to carefully collect forensic evidence and determine if any malicious foul play was involved. Local law enforcement authorities are urgently appealing to the public, urging anyone who may have witnessed unusual activity in the area to come forward immediately to aid the investigation. Vocabulary. Meticulous. Adjective. 꼼꼼한, 세심한. The artist paid meticulous attention to the smallest details of the painting. Deceased. Adjective. 사망한, 명사, 고인. The lawyer read the will of the recently deceased billionaire to his family. Sequence. Noun. 순서, 연속적인 사건들. The detective tried to reconstruct the exact sequence of events that night. Circumstance. Noun. 상황, 정황. I cannot possibly accept the job offer under these difficult circumstances. Preliminary. Adjective. 예비에, 초기에. The preliminary test results show that the new vaccine is safe and effective. Cordon off. Phrasal verb. 통제선을 치다. The armed police quickly cordoned off the building after the bomb threat. Malicious. Adjective. 악의적인, 족이 있는. The company sued the former employee for spreading malicious false rumors. Foul play. Noun. 타살, 범죄 행위. Because the victim had no enemies, the police do not suspect any foul play. Come forward. Phrasal verb. 정보 제공을 위해 나서다. Key witnesses are bravely asked to come forward and talk to the investigators. 시사용어 해설. Foul play. 타살, 범죄 행위. 원래 스포츠 경기에서 룰을 어기는 반칙을 의미하지만 뉴스, 특히 경찰이나 살인 사건을 다루는 기사에서는 병으로 죽은 자연사나 실수로 죽은 사고사가 아닌 누군가 고의로 해를 가해 죽게 만든 타살 또는 강력 범죄를 의미하는 관용구로 쓰입니다. 10. DD India, 10-1. Stock markets decline in early trade amid rising crude oil prices. India's primary benchmark indices, the Sensex and Nifty, drifted noticeably lower in early Monday trading sessions, reflecting broader global anxieties. This market decline was primarily driven by sharply rising crude oil prices, intersecting with persistent, unresolved geopolitical tensions in West Asia. Brent crude forcefully climbed to nearly $88 a barrel immediately following renewed U.S. political warnings against Iran, embedding a high geopolitical risk premium in global energy markets. Despite foreign institutional investors actively buying large sums of domestic equities, the overarching broader market sentiment remains extremely cautious and fragile.
Market analysts predict that equity markets will likely stay heavily range-bound, with a cautious bias until the intense global macroeconomic uncertainties finally begin to subside. Vocabulary. drift, verb, 표류하다, 서서히 이동하다. The tiny wooden boat began to drift aimlessly away from the rocky shore. Primarily, adverb, 주로, 근본적으로. The charity foundation is funded primarily by generous private donations. Intersect, verb, 교차하다, 만나다. The two major highways safely intersect just outside the city center. Persistent, adjective, 지속적인, 끊임없는. The patient suffers from a painfully persistent cough every winter. Embed, verb, 박다, 굳게 내재시키다. The tech company embedded a tiny tracking microchip under the dog's skin. Sentiment, noun, 정서, 심리. The sudden stock market crash heavily damaged global investor sentiment. Cautious, adjective, 신중한, 조심스러운. You must be very cautious when driving a car in heavy snow. Range-bound, adjective, 일정한 범위 내에서 횡보하는. The stock price has been boringly range-bound for over a month now. Subside, verb, 가라앉다, 진정되다. Please wait inside until the heavy rain completely subsides before going out. 시사용어 해설. Foreign institutional investors, FIIs, 외국인 기관 투자자. 해외에 본사를 두고 다른 나라의 주식이나 채권 시장에 고익의 뭉칫돈을 대규모로 투자하는 법인기관, 글로벌 대형은행, 헤지펀드, 연기금 등을 말합니다. 이들의 막대한 자금이 사고팔고 움직임에 따라 해당 국가의 주가와 환율이 요동칠 정도로 엄청난 영향력을 발휘합니다.
Number 10. 2. Judicial reform a continuous process, says Chief Justice of India. Chief Justice of India Surya Kant passionately emphasized in a recent interview that judicial reform must be consistently viewed as an ongoing, continuous process rather than a static, final destination. He strongly argued that the core focus of reform should begin at the grassroots level of district courts, where ordinary, vulnerable citizens first seek basic justice. The Chief Justice thoughtfully highlighted that as society evolves, new complex challenges will constantly emerge, requiring the rigid legal system to quickly adapt and modernize its technological infrastructure. To combat the notorious delays in the Indian legal system, he boldly advocated for the establishment of specialized expert courts designed to ensure strictly time-bound trials and reduce massive case backlogs. Ultimately, true justice, he noted, heavily relies on both rapid technological advancements and the judiciary's unwavering apolitical commitment to absolute constitutional values. Vocabulary. Ongoing, adjective, 계속 진행 중인. The local police are conducting an ongoing investigation into the robbery. Static, adjective, 고정된, 정적인. The company's sales have remained static for the past 3 years. Grassroots, noun, 풀뿌리 일반 민중. The powerful political movement originally started at the grassroots level. Emerge, verb, 나타나다, 떠오르다. A brilliant new leader emerged shortly after the old one retired. Adapt, verb, 적응하다, 맞추다. It takes considerable time and effort to adapt to a new working environment. Advocate, verb, 옹호하다, 지지하다. The human rights group strongly advocates for much better working conditions. Time-bound, adjective, 기한이 정해진. We urgently need a strict, time-bound plan to finish this massive construction. Backlog, noun, 밀린 일, 적체. The busy post office has a massive backlog of undelivered holiday packages. Unwavering, adjective, 확고한, 변함없는. She has my absolute, unwavering support in this incredibly difficult time. 시사용어 해설. Grassroots, 풀뿌리. 식물의 뿌리처럼 사회의 가장 밑바닥, 즉 정치인이나 권력자가 아닌 평범한 일반 시민들이나 지역 사회의 가장 기초적인 단위를 의미합니다. 정치나 행정에서 권력이 위에서 아래로 내려오는 것이 아니라 시민들이 자발적으로 참여하는 풀뿌리 민주주의, grassroots democracy라고 할 때 매우 자주 쓰이는 단어입니다.
10-3. New York India Day Parade celebrates harmony in heritage. The massive annual New York India Day Parade successfully celebrated the beautiful theme of harmony in heritage across the bustling, iconic city streets.
Tens of thousands of highly enthusiastic Indian Americans gathered together to joyfully march in vibrant, colorful traditional attire to honor their beloved homeland's Independence Day. The sprawling cultural event magnificently showcased India's rich historical diversity through loud traditional music, energetic folk dances, and elaborately decorated mechanical floats. This vibrant and noisy parade not only proudly demonstrated the strong, unbreakable unity within the expatriate community, but also successfully fostered deep cultural exchange with other New Yorkers. Local state officials attended and highly praised the event for beautifully highlighting the invaluable and dynamic contributions of Indian immigrants to American society. Vocabulary. Bustling. Adjective. 붐비는, 북적거리는. The night market was bustling with hungry shoppers and loud street vendors. Enthusiastic. Adjective. 열광적인, 열정적인. The massive crowd was incredibly enthusiastic about the rock band's performance. Attire. Noun. 의복, 복장. All invited guests must wear strictly formal attire to the royal dinner party. Sprawling. Adjective. 제멋대로 뻗어나가는, 방대한. The sprawling metropolis covers hundreds of square miles of flat land. Showcase. Verb. 선보이다, 전시하다. The cultural festival will proudly showcase local art, food, and traditional music. Elaborately. Adverb. 정교하게, 공들여. The grand wedding cake was elaborately decorated with edible gold and sugar flowers. Expatriate. Noun. 국외 거주자, 주로 expat. Many American expatriates choose to live in Paris for its rich art and culture. Foster. Verb. 촉진하다, 육성하다. We must implement policies to foster a healthy and stress-free working environment. Invaluable. Adjective. 매우 귀중한, 값을 매길 수 없는. His expert legal advice was absolutely invaluable to the success of our startup. 시사용어 해설. Float. 퍼레이드 장식 차량. 원래는 물에 뜬다. Float. 라는 뜻이지만 문화나 사회기사에서는 놀이공원 퍼레이드나 국가축제 때 꽃이나 각종 화려한 모형물이 크게 꾸며서 거리를 천천히 굴러가게 만든 대형 행진용 차량을 뜻하는 명사로 사용됩니다.